quote unquote experts out there say to win an AI search, you need to show up in Reddit, you need to show up in Wikipedia. And I think that yes, for top of funnel, in our data shows this, that like for top of funnel queries, those are often sources that are cited, but the queries that are the prompts that are more high intent, high purchase intent, they actually, and I did a study on this, which maybe we could share in the show notes on LinkedIn, but essentially like those higher intent queries compare this product versus this product. I want something that is based in this region, has this security protocols, like whatever, all this kind of like long tail type of high intent prompt. That actually, the citations and the sources that AI will use are oftentimes very niche and very different than a Reddit or a Wikipedia or YouTube or something that comes to mind.
Hello and welcome back to Best Story Wins. Today, our guest is Kevin White of Scrunch. Hey, Kevin. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. Excited to get into things. Let's do it.
Yeah, man. So for people that maybe aren't familiar with you or Scrunch yet, can you give us an overview of what Scrunch does and what problem you're solving for teams? And then can you also speak a little to what your role is there?
Yeah, sure. So I lead the marketing team at Scrunch. We are in the space of AI search, and the products we're building, the platform we're building is all around helping brands win at AI search. That starts with, benchmarking, like how does my brand even show up here? There's new metrics and things like that you need to keep a pulse on. Then we help with the, insights, filling the gaps of how to improve that presence over time, outrank competitors over time. And then finally, like the last pillar would be, how to take action. Like you understand these gaps and insights, like how do you acquire new citations? How do you change content on your site? All this kind of stuff. So it's kind of like this end-to-end suite to make sure your brand is showing up when people are searching and trying to do things within AI search platforms like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini. I want to make sure that people know what those things are when I say AI search platforms.
Yeah, that's super cool. So what's your background and how did it lead you into AI search specifically?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to go way back, I kind of got into marketing at a very young age. Like I feel like most people don't grow up and they're like, I want to be a marketer, but I was actually working at a surf shop in Huntington Beach at 16 years old, folding clothes and selling board shorts and surfboards on the floor. And I would notice this is to date me, it was like, the year 2000, so it's quite a long time ago. And I noticed that, their website was non-existent. And I was like, hey, we could like be selling this stuff online. And so I helped build this website. I got into doing all of that type of stuff by like reading books and working with my stepbrother, who is also like a backend developer, and built the website. And then once you build it, it's like, oh, shoot, we got to get traffic and all this kind of stuff here. And that's kind of what got me into like digital marketing and building partnerships with the brands and all this kind of stuff. So I did that for like 10 years. It's quite a long time, actually. It was a really great cushy job. I was overlooking the ocean on like the fourth floor of downtown Huntington Beach, and could go on surf breaks and do like, oh, this is a product demo, I'm going to go surf right now. That was great. And decided at some point like, hey, I need to do something bigger. And then that's what kind of got me into SaaS. And so like in, early like 2010 era, I joined this company called Gigya at the time. And they're like, hey, we bought this thing called Marketo, go figure it out. And like, that's kind of got me into like the B2B SaaS space. And then since then, I led growth at Segment, which is really where, I feel like I had a really great opportunity there. And that's like kind of what give me like so much career benefits over time. And then from there, led marketing at Retool. And then now I'm leading marketing at Scrunch. So that's probably a long-winded-ish overview of my career.
Oh, that's awesome. We have very similar origin stories. I started a clothing store back in 2006, 2007, and no one came. And so I was like, well, how do I sell this stuff? And I was like, well, maybe I'll start a website. And then, yeah, very much similar to what you shared. No one went to the website. And I'm like, well, how do I get people to the website? And so I remember going to the Barnes & Noble at Metro Point in Costa Mesa by South Coast Plaza and literally buying SEO or search engine optimization for dummies.
Yeah.
And like, that was how I learned and kind of taught myself. And then I remember getting that first sale thinking like, this is magic. So it's cool, man. Very, very similar starts. On the note of SEO, like when did you realize, as someone that has that background and as someone that worked in B2B SaaS for a while, like that something was afoot and it wasn't just SEO evolving, but something fundamentally that was changing, and that eventually led to the AI search trend that we're seeing now?
Yeah, I mean, having that background, and just knowing that people are moving to this new channel, I feel like I was leading marketing at another company called Common Room at the time, and we started seeing referral traffic from different LLMs, and we also did self-reported attribution, which is, we ask the question, how do you hear about us? And we hear salespeople typing in ChatGPT, Perplexity, and I was like, that's an interesting signal. This is to like timestamp it, is when I think ChatGPT launched search retrieval in October of 2024. This is like how new the market is. And then we started seeing some of that traffic coming in January of 2025. And then it just kind of like hockey sticked from there. And I was like, wow, there's really something to this. This is a new growth channel. And that's just kind of what got me hooked on, like, how can we show up better in these platforms? This is new greenfield territory, which for any like person with a growth marketing background is like, wow, new channel. This is going to be massive. Lots of low hanging fruit. Like, I want to go all in on this. And that's what got me hooked on AI search as a channel. But then also when I got the opportunity, I heard about Scrunch and the direction we're going with Scrunch, I was like, oh, I have to like join this company now, because it's just like a curiosity thing. I got a demo, talked with the CEO, Chris, who's great, saw the vision. And I was like, I think one thing that is kind of interesting is like the times that I've made the right decisions career wise is if I like couldn't sleep at night after thinking about this. And I was like, let me think about it over the weekend. And after the weekend, I was like, oh man, like there's so many different things we could do here. This is very exciting. I'm very curious about it. And I like knew that was a good signal to join.
What's it like? I mean, it's a pretty meta, in some ways, like pretty meta role, right? Because like you're probably very focused on AI search and doing marketing for an AI search company. Like how do you approach that?
Yeah, it's funny because we not only it's a very nascent space, and so there's no expert in the space. Like if someone's telling you that they're an expert, I mean, it might not even be possible that you're 10,000 hours in the last year. So there's no way there's an expert, and so what I'm doing is kind of trying to definitely dogfooding and using our products, but trying to be transparent and building and sharing in public on LinkedIn and our blog and other places of like, hey, this is what we're doing. Here's where we're seeing success. And then that just becomes a nice mechanism for educating the market on how to go about doing things and winning in AI search. And so that's something that is kind of funny. Like I took ownership of, joined the company. One other funny tidbit is like every company that I worked with, like their actual instance of using the product, it was just like a complete mess because it's like a free for all. Everyone has access to it and like is adding different features and integrations and all this kind of stuff. So the first thing I did was put our workspace on lockdown. And then now we're using it to grow our AI search presence. And then I can like take that and then share it publicly. And it's a nice way to grow our own brand, but also sharing and getting a bigger audience.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, it's an exciting space to be in. And I guess with any new space, there's a lot of hype around it and there's a lot of misinformation around it. Like maybe you can kind of unpack and break down like what's actually changing in search with AI versus what might be overhyped.
Yeah. I mean, there is a lot of what seemingly feels like authoritative advice around like do this and you'll show up better in search results. Some of those results could be like the rising tide lifting all boats. I don't think any of it is really substantiated by the actual search platforms themselves. Like OpenAI is not saying like, hey, if you have a more recent article with an author authority on it, like we're gonna like rank you higher. We're gonna show you higher in the results. So it's very much a black box right now. And so anyone who's like claiming like if you do this, you'll get this outcome, is I would question that and test it. And so the things that we know are different, and that, like I feel authoritative that I could say this is the metrics are changing, and like at the very least, you want visibility into this new way of how users are discovering your brand. And so what I mean by that is in the old like SEO world, things like where you're ranking in terms of a search keyword, how much people are clicking on that, and your organic search traffic is almost like your North Star metric. And in this new world, the metrics are different. Like, yeah, you get AI referral traffic, but that's like the very last mile and the tip of the iceberg. And below that, there's so many more metrics and things that you don't have visibility into. And that's where a product like Scrunch helps out, where we can show you, okay, for these prompts or setup prompts, here's where your brand is mentioned or not mentioned. Here's the position. Here's the sentiment. Citations are another big thing, which is, if your brand or your product is mentioned in a AI result, is it citing a third party source like a G2 or some like review site? Is it citing your own domain? That's also another thing that you want visibility into. That's kind of like the blue links of search, but it's also very different. So just the metrics alone, I feel like, are a clear difference and a new way of that marketers and others have to like figure out how to just at least get visibility. Once you have visibility, then you can kind of get insights and start improving. So I would say that's one thing that I feel very confident in saying without leading people in the wrong direction.
Yeah. One follow up on that, like when it comes to the metrics, I mean, you mentioned it kind of being a black box. Like obviously, OpenAI and Perplexity and the others are not, they're not letting us know search traffic or rather, prompt frequency or volume or things like that. But would you describe like the metrics that you're tracking within Scrunch or the like are basically just the best proxy that we can get for those sorts of things?
Yeah, that's also another difference, is that in traditional search, you have the keyword volume is like kind of finite. You can see for this specific keyword, this exact match keyword, if I'm using Google Ads, how many impressions, how many clicks am I getting for that? But in AI search, the prompt query length is nearly infinite and would be impossible if you're trying and boil the ocean and understand every single permutation of every single prompt that someone's putting in that your brand may or may not show up for. So instead, we kind of the advice we give is to treat it like a like a weather station. Like if you're measuring the weather, you're not measuring every single square foot of every single part of the land. You're putting different sensors out strategically and then understanding like where directionally things are going. I owe our data scientist on our team, Michael is his name, the hat tip on this analogy. But it is a very big difference in terms of how you're measuring results in AI search platforms versus SEO. Is you're more looking at these are the prompts and the sentiment that we want to show up for, and then using that as a to benchmark and then trend over time, knowing that if someone's going to type in a similar prompt, you'll probably also still show up for that. There's lots of other factors to it, but that's kind of like the general strategic direction and difference from SEO.
That's interesting. You mentioned earlier that no one's an expert yet in this space. Obviously, a lot of people are trying to brand themselves as such. So that's one thing that we kind of see.
Guilty.
Right. I mean, hey, me too, to an extent, right? But I think everyone's learning things, and they want to share what they learn, right? I think for altruistic reasons, but also because it's smart for positioning purposes. But that's something that we're seeing in the market right now. One of the other themes around AI search that you hear kind of on LinkedIn and elsewhere is like, oh man, you got to figure out Reddit. Like that's like the holy grail. Like those are definitely some themes that play here. I'm wondering, other than those two themes, like what is the biggest misconception about AI search right now? And feel free to say like, those are them.
No, actually I do have a take on Reddit. So I think people, the experts out, quote unquote, experts out there say, to win an AI search, you need to show up in Reddit, you need to show up in Wikipedia. And I think that yes, for top of funnel, and our data shows this, that like for top of funnel queries, those are often sources that are cited. But the queries that are the prompts that are more high intent, high purchase intent, they actually, and I did a study on this, which maybe we could share in the show notes on LinkedIn, but essentially like those higher intent queries, compare this product versus this product. I want I want something that is based in this region, has this security protocols, like whatever, all this kind of like long tail type of high intent prompt that actually the citations and the sources that AI will use are oftentimes very niche and very different than a Reddit or a Wikipedia or YouTube or something that comes to mind. The reason why those larger platforms are often talked about is because like they capture a lot of the high funnel, high volume, but actually where you're getting conversions is on that lower funnel, higher intent types of prompts, which has a very, very, very long tail of citations. There's not like one dominant source there either. I think the suggestion that I would make is, hey, you don't know what you don't know. So start trying to track all this stuff. And then, yeah, maybe Reddit and one of these citations are the answer. And that's where you need to like start focusing your efforts, but it could be something else. And so if you don't have visibility, then like, why would you go in one direction versus another? Like you need to understand what's going on first.
I'm curious for your hot take here. Are there certain buzzwords in the industry that drive you nuts or you think we should stop using?
I mean, I think the buzziest buzzword of all buzzwords is like or that drives me nuts is the AEO versus GEO versus LLMAO or whatever you want to call it. It drives me nuts that like there's no. I just want the market to make a decision on it. Like I don't care what you call it. Like we just kind of default to calling everything AI search. That'd be great. It's not an acronym, but I mean, maybe AIS is an acronym. I don't know, but I just want the market to make a conclusion on it so that I can just know what it is and move forward. So whether it's AEO or GEO or something else, like, come on, people, let's do it. Like, let's figure it out.
So you're not in the camp where there's any distinction between those. I know for a lot of people draw off kind of small distinctions.
I had the same kind of take with demand gen and growth marketer is like, yeah, there's maybe some nuances and maybe whoever coined the term has nuances, but the zeitgeist of what people think about it or what they have in mind is essentially they're synonymous with each other. And so like there's probably some people who have takes around like this is differentiated in this way or whatever, but I think you can't escape the meme of the market. And so the meme of the market views them both as the same. So like, I think that's like what the definition is.
Yeah. If you were given the ability to choose the acronym for the industry, what would you pick?
I would just go with AI search, AIS, I guess. Yeah. Yeah. That way we own it too, I guess. I don't know. We haven't written an article of like the definitive guide to AIS, but we do have shout out. We do have the AI search guide, which you can see on our website.
Yeah, I like that term. I think it's a term that requires least amount of unpacking, especially for like other folks that maybe are not in this space full time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The one thing I actually don't love about it or any of the other acronyms is that you don't just go to an LLM to search. You go to an LLM to generate things. You go to an LLM to do work for you. Like you're going to upload a spreadsheet, you have it do an analysis on the spreadsheet, or you're going to generate images. That's like not actually search. But then again, those types of generative things, typically, I don't think there's tie into like track them and see if your brand shows up. So like it's a little bit fuzzy to define that as part of the category too.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you guys at Scrunch define showing up in AI search versus ranking in Google? And what are the things that may make it possible for you to be visible in one and not the other?
This is actually kind of like a build it and they will come type of take, I guess, is that in Google search, if you're on page 2, there's a common saying, if you're on page 2, you might as well, not be anywhere at all. It's like that's the best place to hide a dead body is the colloquialism there. And so because of that, if you don't rank in that top 10 list and at the like closer to the top, like you typically don't get a lot of visibility. One difference that we do see in AI search is that if you if you write a really long tail answer, I call this like the long tail. If you write a long tail answer or piece of content, AI is particularly good at going and finding and fetching that and then returning it in the response. And so essentially you can carve out a space of really specific content that only your own customer or user or someone would be searching for. And AI does a pretty phenomenal job of like going and finding that and returning it. Whereas if you're trying to do that with Google, it takes a really long time for you to like build up enough credibility and like the hub and spoke model and be dominating a particular topic for you to get that long tail query to show up in the top 10 blue links. And so I think that is like a fundamental difference that we've seen play out. The interesting thing there is like, I think a lot of people get like eyes wide open and like try and go after like the prompts or the keywords with like the most volume. But when you do that like really long tail of content approach, you get a lot less traffic, but that traffic is typically much higher intent and converts at a much higher rate. And that's where you're seeing some of these studies too, which are saying like, yeah, I don't get that much AI traffic, but it converts at like 6 times higher than organic traffic or 10 times higher than organic traffic. And if you think about why that is, it's that someone's, going back and forth with the chatbot to do all of that like discovery and analysis. And by the time they get to the answer, like really they're just visiting your site and converting, because like that's the last mile thing that they're doing is like your site, your product is being recommended after doing all this research on behalf of the user. And then they're just coming to your site to convert, which kind of begs the question, like, what is a website good for, or who's a website for? But yeah, it's interesting and dynamic that we're seeing in AI search.
Yeah. And since we're not seeing that many people click through, maybe you could kind of break down what some of those other metrics are that are important in terms of prompt coverage and citations and things like that.
Yeah. So the first, I think kind of like the North Star metric for AI search monitoring and benchmarking is for any given prompt, is my brand showing up? We call that brand presence. It's essentially like brand market share. It would be like, does your brand show up in the top 10 blue links in SEO? But it's like, instead of a backlink or showing up as a link, it's showing up as a mention within the AI response. Behind that, or often like part of that equation, is your brand mentioned in the citation that AI views as authority? Like the site that they're referencing, like in the little tiny gray pill, is your brand mentioned there? Because that AI is just drawing answers and pulling answers from those different sources that are cited, and chunking it out and returning it back in the response. And so, if you're like the reason why citations is another major important piece of the metrics that you would want to track is that if your brand presence, if your brand is not showing up, the way to get your brand to show up is oftentimes acquiring a citation or a mention on one of these credible sources. And so those are like the two main metrics that I would say are different with AI search. And then the third metric I would say is like, are people actually clicking through? And that's just typical like referral traffic.
Cool. So I guess at a more like philosophical level, like do you see Scrunch as helping people adapt to AI systems, or is it more about shaping how those systems understand them? Whether you view yourselves as like kind of Sherpas, like helping people navigate this new era of AI, or if it's more about helping people to understand how these systems understand them in their businesses. And it could be both, right?
Yeah. No, it is both. So I think the Sherpa side of it is the clear entry points in the wedge to this is like the starting point for a brand or a marketing team to just like get some guidance and help of like, how is my brand showing up, and uncovering this kind of mystical thing that is new for a lot of teams. The next step after that is like, okay, I understand the landscape. I understand where I'm seeing where I have gaps. Like, help me understand how I improve my presence and fill those gaps. And then to fill those gaps, there's a number of different things that you can prescriptively do. It could be like, a technical thing where it's like, your robots.txt is like blocking all AI traffic from your site. It's like, okay, we can fix that. It could be something like, we have a content gap here, and we need to, or we have an existing page this is the intent on this page, but like the AI platforms aren't identifying that intent and surfacing it. And so like, let's make adjustments to that page to better address the prompts that like we want to show up for. It could be something like, oh, there's all these third-party citations that are showing up in these prompts that we care about, that people are looking for. We're not showing up in the citations. Like, let's go get our brand mentioned and acquire some citations. And so that's kind of like the insights piece of the journey. That's more kind of pulling back the curtain on like the mechanics of the system and how to show up there. And then there's like the last piece, which is the delivery mechanism. One interesting thing that we're doing here on the delivery side is that AI search. If you think about the user behavior of using an LLM to get an answer, they're essentially typing things in, and then the AI is going and retrieving stuff on their behalf. They're doing that Google search, Google research, or search research type of stuff that we used to have to do manually, and it's all being compressed into that one chat experience. And so when that happens, an AI bot will go crawl your site, find the right information that's relevant from the prompt, in addition to other sites too, and then return that back to the user. And so what was traditionally a something that was dismissed by marketers is like, you get bot traffic. It's like, that's not high intent. Like, I don't want to pay attention to this traffic. That new visitor, an AI bot that's crawling your site, is actually there's someone behind it prompting it, and they have high intent. And so the way that AI consumes information, and I'll tie this all together at some point. The way that AI consumes information is not the same way that humans do. And so your human site that has lots of media and is JavaScript and is like what we call like token heavy, tokens like the economy exchange that AI needs to like get information, that content, that token heavy experience, it can only crawl so much of it before it has to like say, I'm done, and then return back a response to the user. And so one of the directions that we're heading with Scrunch is, let's optimize your page and let's optimize your content so that AI can consume it in a token light way, and give it more information and context in the way that it wants to read that. The lingua franca of the AI bots is Markdown and JSON. And so one thing that we're doing is identifying that traffic at the what's called the edge, like the content delivery part of the funnel, and then we're forking that bot to show it a different site experience than like a human would look at. That's the action layer. That's like the last piece, is like take some sort of action, and that's like kind of like the end-to-end part of the systems and understanding systems and like how to influence them.
And you're able to direct that traffic, you're saying, that bot traffic?
Yeah, well, we partner with the CDNs like Akamai, CloudFront, Cloudflare, Fastly, Vercel, and then eventually we'll do more of like the CMS integrations, which is more like the content side. But the content CDN, Content Delivery Network, I believe is the acronym. Essentially, they spot the traffic, and then you can route it to different experiences based on what it identifies.
Yeah, that's great. That's really interesting. I'm curious, when you mentioned kind of the weather analogy of AI search measurement, in that, you're not trying to get super specific about every detailed prompt, but rather kind of covering a broad surface area. Do you feel like, how do you react to people that are maybe have a strategy that's optimizing for visibility within specific prompts? Is that a fool's errand, or is that worthwhile if you feel like that's a fairly common prompt?
No, I mean, I think that's kind of the way to do it. It's like you have to pick some prompts that you think are the closest proxy to like what someone would type in that has intent. You're not going to get it right every time, or pretty much 99% of the time you're going to get it wrong. Someone's going to speak or upload or type in some like weird long query, and your prompt is going to be, the prompt that you're tracking is maybe like 80% of that or 90% of that or something like that. And so you do need to be specific, but essentially like the strategy, or the way I would approach it is like, find a cluster of a specific topic that you want to own. Like come up with a cluster of, call it 5 to 25 prompts that are like associated with that cluster. You can go from like maybe where someone would start at like the top of the funnel within that cluster all the way down. And then once you have that, you're tracking that. Then that kind of gives you that like a yardstick of like, okay, here's where we started, here's where we're getting more mentions, or we're getting more citations, or here's where we're overcoming our competitors, all this kind of stuff. So that's the approach I would take. You just need some sort of specificity. And then it's better to draw a line in the sand and like keep going with consistency than like try and like change your prompt over and over and over again, because like then you're not going to get that directional insight.
That's good. I'm curious to hear your take on this question. It's a two-parter just because we have a lot of internal back and forth around both parts of the question. And that's, where do you think teams are maybe overreacting to AI search right now, becoming just, an important thing, a hot thing? And what inning do you think we're in terms of the kind of transition to that being a main channel?
Oh, I think the game hasn't even like started yet on the innings. Like I think we're we're warming up in the infield, or whatever the analogy is. Like it's very, very early, which is exciting because it's like that means there's like it's a big channel. There's a big opportunity there. The other part of the question is like, where are people over indexing or overhyping things? There is like a faction that is like, this is the new SEO, or SEO is dead. I think like that is definitely not the case. I feel like SEO is going to continue to grow. It's not going to grow at the same exponential rate as AI search, and AI search is not going to completely displace traditional search. I think they'll probably like blend and merge a lot, and then the things what any kind of take that's like AI search is very different than SEO. Like, I feel like there's also like, if you're doing SEO well, typically you're going to be showing up in AI search well. There's the things that are different, like we talked about, which is like, you can't boil the ocean with every prompt. The metrics are different. There's probably going to be different things that are understood, like they are understood with SEO now, which is like, around authorship and recency and like all this kind of stuff. I think that stuff will eventually come to fruition, or like be more transparent. Right now, it's just like, I wouldn't take anyone's word for it, because the LLM models themselves have not disclosed or shared much. The way I would approach that, though, is like, go out, figure it out on your own, and like run your own experiments and test what works. Like, don't listen to me. Don't listen to like some expert out there on LinkedIn or whatever. Run a controlled experiment. Do something for one group of prompts that you don't do for another group of prompts. See if that makes an impact, and then learn and iterate and repeat from there.
Other side of that question, where do you feel people are underreacting in this? Like, what are people, maybe the people that are still skeptics because that environment is somewhat opaque and we can't see search volume and things like that. Are there things that people are ignoring because of that they should be paying attention?
Yeah, it's kind of like the other part of the spectrum, honestly. It's like, this is just SEO rebranded. Like, I think there actually are pretty substantial differences to SEO. And so if you're just treating it as like, oh, this is just SEO, I can just keep going with my SEO strategy and like just ignore this whole other channel, I think that is a mistake. It's almost like I like this concept of like called ostrich syndrome, which is essentially like, hey, there's this big wave and change coming. I'm a marketer. I'm just going to bury my head in the sand and hope that it goes away. Like, I feel like that's what the people who are the SEO purists are kind of doing. It's like, they're just kind of ignoring this big thing that is differentiated. Yeah, it's similar, but I think you don't want to ignore it.
Yeah, I think that's right on. It's interesting, man. Like, when you go on LinkedIn, and this is just the case for social media broadly speaking, right? That like nuanced, more measured takes don't play as well. And so I think people are less inclined to.
Oh, that's why I don't have much distribution.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like my takes are too nuanced, too nuanced.
Yeah. And it's, but I think that's where we're at. And like, I think, to kind of add to something you said earlier, like, yeah, I think the people that do SEO well, like they just have a leg up on the people that don't have that foundation. But you have to focus on the search, purist things, and then add on the AI search things as well. And if you can, spin both those plates at the same time, or walk and chew gum, as people like to say, like, you'll be fine. But I think where people get it wrong is they go, oh, everything is changing. We got to do all this new stuff and abandon the ship. Or, when they put their head in the sand, both are pretty stupid approaches, I think, for the long term.
Yeah. It's the answer lies somewhere in the middle, which is not always going to get you the distribution and engagement that a stronger opinionated take would get you. Unfortunately, that's the world we live in.
Yeah, I'm curious. Curious to hear your take on this, because like you're probably in the data on a regular basis in a way that others might not be. But what signals are you seeing AI systems, AI search consistently reward when deciding which brands to surface?
Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, I can only speak to our own products and like our own dog fooding here. I mean, I hear outside of people saying like, oh, third-party reviews and getting third-party citations that are authoritative sources. This is similar to SEO too. Are the better way to get your brand mentioned, because there is a thought that AI is not going to reward your own domain because it's biased, which makes a lot of sense. Where we see is that is working well, at least right now, and I'll structure this in an example, is that there are a lot of prompts and things that people are searching for, especially with this new change in a category that is just like no one has any content out there on the web at all about. And so it's completely greenfield. And a lot of times it's only particular to us because we have a product or a feature integration or something like that no one else has, but maybe people are actually searching for. And so what we've done is taken our sales calls and our support requests through the AI chat that we use for search. We've taken that and created a repository of objections, frequently asked questions, stuff like that like is our own first party proprietary data. And then we're starting to build out a frequently asked questions section of our website to address every single one of those questions based on how often they come up or how closely they are related to our product or whatever. And because that's greenfield, there's pretty much like no one else showing up for those answers or those prompts, and like that's a strategy that we've seen work well, where we're tracking these the gist of these prompts, we are matching those to those objections or those frequently asked questions, putting them out there, and then we're seeing our brand presence really dominate those search terms, or search terms, prompt terms, whatever you want to call it, people typing in a question.
Yeah, so I'm curious to hear, Kevin, how you feel, if you feel like AI search is mostly a content challenge or a data challenge or a brand challenge.
Yeah, I mean, I think it can be all three, and those are all different surface areas or approaches to identify where there's gaps and then like go tackle those gaps. So let's try and curve this in some examples. So if you are using something like Scrunch and you're tracking all these prompts that you want your brand to show up for, and you're noticing that there's a bunch of third-party citations that are showing up for those prompts that are, there's no other brands that are showing up in them, and they're more like publishing type of outlets like Forbes or Business Insider or something like that. Chances are, if you try and show up for those with your own content, it's gonna be a really hard challenge to like meet the bar of those other publishers that have like tons of SEO equity and have been around for a really long time. So the approach there wouldn't be to like, let's create content that addresses this. The approach there would be like, let's figure out which of these cited sources AI views very authoritatively, and let's try and get our brand mentioned in those, because that'll give us a better chance of getting that brand presence to show up, which is like the North Star metric we talked about earlier. And then on the technical side, same kind of thing. It's like, oh, is AI reading our site the right way? How is it interpreting it? Like, should we make some technical fixes here? And so it's not one or the other. It's usually, documenting the whole kind of spectrum of like, here's the lay of the land. Here's like where we can make improvements. And then what is the approach to that? Sometimes it's content, sometimes it's citations, sometimes it's technical, sometimes maybe it's something else that I'm not thinking of.
So what's one thing that every CEO should be asking their team about with respect to AI search?
Well, I feel like a big catalyst for marketing teams going into AI search is that the board or the CEO is saying like, "Hey, this channel is seemingly big. I put a search for our brand in there. It's got our pricing completely wrong. It's got positioning completely wrong. It's referencing like some old blog posts. Like, what's going on here?" And so I think if the CEO is in tuned and the marketer or the person who should own that is just completely ignoring it, having that ostrich syndrome, if you will, then like that is a place where I think marketers and growth teams can get ahead of these asks that are going to be coming from the CEO or the board or something like that. I don't. I mean, for any CEO, I would say this is a new channel. Obviously, you think it's probably like a big thing and something that your team should be focused on. If that's the case, then like give someone ownership of it. You're not going to own it yourself, but like make sure that that is part of the KPIs or objectives or whatever. And then it's not the answer for everyone. I mean, I know pretty much every brand out there has a website, and like so there is a pretty large horizontal surface area there that do need something like this. But if it doesn't make sense, like the part of the job of a CEO is ruthless prioritization. So, do the thing that's going to get you the best outcome and focus your team versus trying to like, boil the ocean. So I don't know. I've never been a CEO, so it's probably not good for me to like give CEO advice.
Yeah. Well, I guess on that, as a follow-up to that, how many folks are you all hearing from that kind of start their conversation with Scrunch? Like, our inbound has fallen off a cliff and like we're getting a lot of heat to figure this out. Is that a usual thing?
Yeah, a good amount of the enterprises that we work with a lot of companies that have been around for a long time, like ADP, like Akamai, and I'm not sure which ones I can actually say, so I'm holding back a little bit here of the enterprises we work with, but they essentially have like thousands of pages or thousands of product SKUs, and they want those SKUs to be accurate, and they also want to make sure that they're showing up in these LLM platforms. Sometimes their organic traffic is like flat, sometimes it's like severely down. If it's severely down, like that's a very good catalyst for us to like go reach out to them and like build pipeline within the enterprise. And it's a good signal for us to like go reach out to those accounts. But I would say most of it, like it's never someone who's like, oh, my organic search is like completely decimated. I think everyone kind of knows what's going on, and when they're coming to us, they're more like, hey, I need some help with just getting visibility into this and like understanding it. And like, I know that either like I want to de-risk our organic traffic going away, or it's just starting to tail off. And, most people that come to us are somewhat sophisticated about it already. So I would say there's no one who's like shocked by, the organic traffic is decimated overnight.
If you could change one thing about the way that people kind of think and talk about this space, what would it be?
I would like to get agreement on the AEO versus GEO thing. For one, no, so actually, the thing that I would say is that I wish there weren't so many people out there selling snake oil or telling you that like they're the authoritative source and to like follow you. I feel like that's going to lead a lot of people into a direction that is like self-serving to that person who is like offering that, like they're benefiting, but they might be leading these brands down the wrong track, and they're just like fully trusting and relying on this person. And so, I wish that part of the industry would go away or be shadow banned by whatever, but I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon.
Yeah, man. Well, Kevin, this has been awesome having you on. I know we're almost at time. For people that want to learn more about you, learn more about Scrunch, where's the best place for them to find you online?
We got the dictionary domain, so we have scrunch.com. You can go to. That was a recent development in the last few months, which is exciting to have a nice .com domain. And then I talk about this stuff quite a lot on LinkedIn. So yeah, find me in the show notes or follow me on LinkedIn. It's pretty easy to find me. Just Google me, Kevin White, Scrunch, LinkedIn. You'll find me. Or sorry, don't Google me. AI search me. I hope it shows up.
There we go. Nice fix there at the last second. Thanks, Kevin.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. That's great.